YouTubers are targeted with malware links, fitness apps are leaking military secrets, a UK ransomware payment ban is proposed, AWS encryption tools are exploited by a new ransomware gang, and Fortinet firewalls are hit by possible zero-day attacks. This is Cybersecurity Today. I'm your host, Jim Love. Cyber criminals are planting malware links on trusted platforms like YouTube and even Google search results. Trend Micro researchers say these attackers target users searching for cracked software. Instead of downloading the promised tool, victims unknowingly install malware such as Luma or Vidar that steals passwords and crypto wallet data and more. The scheme is clever. There are videos with tutorials claiming to provide free software, including links and descriptions or pinned comments. These links direct users to file-sharing sites, some legitimate sites like Mediafire or MegaNZ, where malware hides in password-protected archives to evade detection. The same tactics are appearing in Google search results. For instance, one fake Autodesk link led to an InfoStealer download. Security experts warn that the real risk is complacency. People chasing free software often overlook security warnings. Enterprises are especially vulnerable if employees fall for these scams. The best defense? Educate users that free software may come at a high price, and almost always does. Their privacy, their data, and even their money. And in a world where home and office boundaries are, at best, in flux, this free software could cost their company big time. The journal Le Monde reported that Strava, a popular exercise tracking app, tracked runs by crew members at France's Ile Longue base. And when their activity suddenly stopped, it revealed the nuclear submarine was on patrol. Weeks later, when the crew returned, Strava lit up again. One sailor even made a joke about returning from the sea. This type of leak is called fit leaking. Experts warn that fitness apps can reveal sensitive information from base layouts to troop movements. And this isn't the first incident. The US and Israel have seen similar issues where fitness data exposed military sites on Strava's public heat map. The French Navy acknowledges the security lapse, and experts caution that foreign intelligence agencies may have accessed this data. So what's the lesson to be learned? Smartphones and even wearables can leak sensitive information, even for high-security operations. And where phones might even be banned, smart watches can get in. And it's not just fitness apps. On Monday's show, we had a story that showed that thousands of apps have been used to collect location data and have disclosed it to the American government and maybe more. While today's example is definitely a breach of security, there is a much bigger problem. Tackling these risks requires more than banning devices. It means rethinking how we handle location data. In our last weekend show, our panelist and frequent guest, David Shipley, the head of Beauceron Security, made an impassioned argument against paying ransoms. It turns out the UK government might agree with him. The UK government has launched a 12-week consultation on whether to stop public sector organizations from paying ransoms. This would include hospitals, schools, transport networks, and more. One proposal goes even further, requiring private companies to get government approval before making ransomware payments. Supporters say cutting off ransom payments could reduce attacks. Security Minister Dan Jarvis says these proposals aim to choke off criminals' financial pipelines. Critics worry about unintended consequences, like driving payments underground or making it harder for victims to recover. If the UK moves forward, it would be the first major economy to introduce such sweeping measures. Organizations have 12 weeks to shape this policy. Whether it's a full ban, a licensing system, or mandatory reporting, one thing is clear. the global response to ransomware may be changing, and that change might begin in the UK. I woke up this morning and caught up on the news as I normally do, and I couldn't get this song out of my head. It was the theme for Goldfinger. And then I realized the story that I'd been reading. A new ransomware gang called Codefinger is targeting Amazon Web Service users. But just like a James Bond story, there's a twist. The hackers are using AWS's encryption tools to carry out the attack. They exploit AWS's server-side encryption with customer-provided keys known as SSE-C. They gain access by using compromised credentials to lock S3 storage buckets out with the AES 256 key. Now, one of the strengths of AWS's approach to encryption is that their company does not retain these keys. Only their clients have that info. The idea was rooted in privacy and data sovereignty. A government or other party can't demand that AWS give them access to client data. It's encrypted. They don't have the keys. But if attackers get control, victims can't decrypt their data without the attacker's key. Halcyon researchers warn that this tactic could pose a systemic risk to cloud users. At least 2 AWS native developers have been hit. In one case, the criminals gave victims a 7-day deadline to pay before deleting their data, and they were warned that if they contacted legal authorities or anyone else, their data would be immediately deleted. AWS advises customers to minimize key exposure by rotating credentials, using IAM roles, and avoiding SS-C wherever possible. The attack shows that even legitimate cloud features can be weaponized by criminals. Arctic Wolf Labs reports a wave of attacks in December. Criminals accessed exposed firewall management interfaces, creating superadmin accounts, and used SSL VPN tunnels to move through networks. Suspicious login activity and altered configurations point to a likely zero-day vulnerability. And on January 14th, Fortinet stepped up and issued a critical patch for CVE 2024-55591, which they described as an authentication bypass flaw. It has a huge severity, and admins are urged to patch immediately and review logs for unusual activity. The attack highlights a key lesson. This was caught because people were monitoring login attempts, and you need to apply patches promptly, especially for firewalls. Fortinet users should stay alert for future developments. And that's our show for today. You can reach me with tips, comments, and yes, even some constructive criticism at editorial@technewsday.ca. I'm your host, Jim Love. Thanks for listening.